Here are the top stories for today, November 25, 2020. The government presents its strategy for mass immunization against COVID-19. A former NPA rebel says there is no need to join the CPP-NPA to show patriotism. Malacanang warns local mayors against protecting illegal loggers and miners. Coron Island opens its doors to local tourists beginning December 1. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. As the country gears towards mass immunization against COVID-19, the government will prioritize areas with high cases. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Carlito Galvez Jr. said they adhere to the President's directive to prioritize the poor and government frontliners in conducting mass vaccinations. Meanwhile, several vaccine developers are set to conduct clinical trials in the Philippines. These include Sinovac, Hansen, Johnson & Johnson, Gamaleya, AstraZeneca, and CanSino. The government says it is looking at multilateral financing institutions such as the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank to finance vaccine procurements. Local banks such as Land Bank of the Philippines and the Development Bank of the Philippines or DBP are also possible fund sources for the vaccine.
Ang gagawin natin pong strategy, dalawa pong strategy po ang gagawin po natin para po maka-recover tayo at ma-contain kaagad natin ang ating pandemic. Gagawin po natin geographical. Priority ang NCR, priority ang Davao, dahil ang Davao po ngayon umakyat din, priority ang Cebu, priority po yung mga Bacolod, yung mga tinamaan po ng mabigat ng COVID. And then from geographical, magiging sectoral. Meaning, kung sino yung priority natin doon, for example, sa Manila, yung urban poor, uunahin po natin yun. Yung mga vulnerable, uunahin po natin doon. Yung mga sundalo na ka-assign sa NCR, uunahin po natin. At saka po yung mga essential workers.
President Rodrigo Duterte has signed 5 laws increasing bed capacity of 5 hospitals in the country. President Duterte signed Republic Act 11495, establishing the Bicol Women's and Children's Hospital in Pamplona, Camarines Sur. The Bicol Hospital will have 200 beds dedicated to health requirements of women and children. He also signed RA 11496, increasing the bed capacity of the Western Visayas Medical Center in Mandurriao, Iloilo City from 425 to 700 beds. RA 11497 increases the bed capacity of Las Piñas General Hospital and Satellite Trauma Center from 200 to 500 beds. RA 11498 also increases the bed capacity for the Cagayan Valley Medical Center in Tuguegarao City, Cagayan from 500 to 1,000 beds. President Duterte also signed RA 11499, renaming the Malita District Hospital in Davao Occidental as the Malita Women and Children's Wellness Center. RA 11500 upgrades the Siargao District Hospital in Dapa into a Level 2 General Hospital and rename it as Siargao Island Medical Center. It also increases the bed capacity of the hospital from 50 to 100. RA 11501 also increases the bed capacity of Quirino Memorial Medical Center in Quezon City from 500 to 1,000 beds. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, ordered the partial lifting of the supplemental work stoppage order on Skyway project. The department earlier issued the order following Saturday's accident in Muntinlupa City, where a motorist was killed and 6 others were injured when a steel girder fell on some vehicles under the project site along the East Service Road. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III in his order said the department recognizes the utmost national importance underlying the said Skyway extension project. He said the EEI Corporation manifested that the incident is an isolated case and the company is already conducting a full risk assessment and mitigation to determine the exact cause of the incident. The company also explained that considering the progress of the ongoing works, the stoppage of all works in the entire Skyway extension project would present further risk and additional peril on the works. A decent home and sustainable livelihood program await families who will return home to Lanao del Norte from crowded urban centers in the metropolis under the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa or BP2 program. The details from Christine Lynn Viajante.
The municipal government of Kauswagan in Lanao del Norte launched the Bagong Pag-asa Organic Village as one of the pilot Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa or BP2 resettlement villages in the country. BP2 is a long-term program of the government to decongest Metro Manila of local migrants, especially informal settlers who were drawn there in search for economic growth.
In this small area, we will build a community of about 200 families originally coming from urban centers, living as informal settlers. They will come here, they will be provided with housing units, they will be provided with a common livelihood activity.
During the launching, the National Housing Authority turned over 25 million pesos worth of housing assistance which will be built in a 6-hectare land donated by a private power company. Kauswagan Mayor expressed gratitude for the support and assistance to the implementation of the program.
We are thankful that Kauswagan was chosen to be the country's pilot program. And I can assure you that we are more ready, and I believe we are on the right track.
With the BP2 program, different government agencies vow to provide sustainable livelihood for the returning migrants. This will soon include provision of livelihood kits, skills development training, employment, and business opportunities. For PNA Newsroom, Christine Lynn Viajante of PIA Iligan City Information Center.
Former rebel Jeffrey K. Eric Celis reveals that joining the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army National Democratic Front is not the answer to the clamors for genuine change. It also is not a way of showing one's love for his country. He and other former communist terrorist cadres and members came out to the public to expose the deceptive recruitment schemes and misleading mobilization of the group through its legal front organizations, saying the moment of truth has come. The details from Laid Cabagani.
Former cadre Jeffrey Celis alias Ka Eric slammed the CPP-NPA NDF's claim of being the sole advocate of patriotism. In a Senate hearing yesterday, Celis hit the representatives of the Makabayan Black for their shooting the messenger tactics, saying the Makabayan Black representatives did not focus on the message that he was trying to convey during the Senate probe into the issue of red tagging.
Hindi mo kailangan maging CPP-NPA NDF para mahalin at paglingkuran ng ating pinakamamahal na bayang Pilipinas. Much more, you don't need to become an activist in the framework of the CPP-NPA NDF para ikaw lang ang pwedeng magkaroon ng franchise para mahalin ang bayang Pilipinas. Napaka-insulto yan sa mga senador at iba pang mga nag-aalay ng buhay para sila lang ang mag-claim ng exclusive right na sila lang ang makabayan at sila lang ang pwedeng magmahal at maglingkod sa ating mga kababayan.
They tried to demolish and attack my person. Kulang na lang ibato nila ang septic tank para palabasing ako'y polluted witness.
Celis said the government should look into schools reportedly infiltrated by the CPP-NPA NDF, including the University of the Philippines, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Far Eastern University, and University of Santo Tomas, where the terror group's recruitment is unhampered, unchallenged, and school administration do nothing against it. He noted that they are not against the UP administration itself, but its position, branding it as an impotent and pathetic stunt to allow students to become part of the communist struggle.
Libo-libong kabataan ng mga magsasakat, mga manggagawa ang hindi makapasok sa UP dahil sa standard nito, and yet ilang daan lang naman sila dyan sa UP, pero parang pagmamayari ng Communist Party of the Philippines, NPA, NDF ang UP at ang PUP. That has to be stopped.
Yes.
And there should be an intervention to that, either by way of revising and reviewing the charter of UP and PUP at ibasura ang lahat ng mga subcultural institutional encroachment na ginawa nila Joe Masison inside UP.
Joy James Sagino alias Ka Amihan said he was recruited by the League of Filipino Students and Kabataang Makabayan in 2017. He said that while promoting democratic activism to push students to intervene in tackling societal issues, the administrators of various universities should not tolerate the recruitment of youths inside the campus.
hindi naman alumnus siguro kasi hindi ako nakagraduate, but I came from the University of the Philippines. To view things objectively, we don't intend to demonize the University of the Philippines by calling some circumstances na may mga recruitment na nangyayari sa loob ng University of the Philippines para yung mga estudyante ay ma-radicalize at maging membro ng NPA. Sa amin, bilang organization ng mga former cadres, we formed Sambayanan. Tumatayo kami sa paninindigan na dapat yung university ay maging venue for academic freedom, yes, but at the same time, it should not promote anything that pushes its students towards terrorism and armed struggle.
Meanwhile, Noel Legaspi alias Ka Efren said the majority of the student population in various universities and colleges do not want a revolution.
Kailangan lang talaga imulat sila na mayroong ganito at i-challenge sila into theoretical and ideological debate sa loob ng paaralan para hindi mamonopolize nung kaliwa.
Evelyn Corpin alias Ka-Red disclosed that even the professors of various universities are infiltrated by the CPP-NPA and its front organizations. She said freshman students are the primary target for the recruitment process inside the campus due to their vulnerability and innocence.
Kaya, dapat mag-intervene na talaga ang government ano ang dapat gawin sa mga state universities and colleges na ito na pinapasok at ini-infiltrate ng CPP. At hindi lang basta ini-infiltrate, talagang nakukonduktahan niya na ano yung mangyayari dun sa loob ng pamantasan.
Meanwhile, Makabayan Black lawmakers in the House of Representatives denied the allegations linking them to the CPP-NPA. Kabataan Party List Representative Sara Ilago refuted claims that her organization recruits members for the NPA.
Hindi ako NPA, hindi ako NPA recruiter, hindi po bahagi o front ng CPP ang Kabataan Party List. Hindi NPA recruiter ang Kabataan Party List. Hindi rin ito nagre-recruit para maging NPA.
However, Sagino confirmed the ties between the CPP-NPA and the youth organization as he explained the correlation and mutual relationship of the legal democratic mass movement with the revolutionary underground mass movement. Sagino said their denial of the allegations against them only shows their loyalty to the CPP, not enduring any harm to their comrades who are still inactive.
Again po, I reiterate, Kabataan Party List is a front organization of the Communist Party of the Philippines advancing the legal democratic mass movement. Because dahil baka magaya sila sa amin na when we speak of the truth, what's behind the legal organization, they will be just like us who will be targeted by the CPP for assassination.
The CPP-NPA is listed as terrorist organization by the United States, the European Union, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the Philippines. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lid Kabagani.
Still to come, Malacanang warns local mayors against protecting illegal loggers and miners. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You are still watching the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang asked mayors to stop being involved in illegal logging and mining operations in their towns, warning that they will have blood on their hands if they pursue activities that have environmental consequences. This after Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said there were cases wherein mayors either directly or indirectly benefited from illegal mining and logging. The details from Benj Mondal.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque reminded mayors that they, as public officials, should abide by the law and not violate it. This after DILG Secretary Eduardo Año ordered all local governments and police nationwide to start a crackdown on illegal logging and quarrying. He also wants to fast-track tree planting activities.
Well, mga mayors, no, nandyan po kayo dyan para ipatupad po ang batas, hindi para kayong lumabag ng batas. Hindi po dapat ginagamit na parang negosyo, para sa negosyo ang inyong posisyon. Nakita naman po natin ang danyos na dulot ng illegal logging at illegal mining, lalong-lalo na dyan sa probinsya ng Cagayan. You will have blood in your hands kung poprotektahan niyo po ang mga illegal miners at illegal loggers.
Meanwhile, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources has proposed the immediate dredging and strict enforcement of the 20-meter easement rule along the Cagayan River to prevent a repeat of the massive flooding in the provinces of Cagayan and Isabela during the onslaught of Typhoon Ulysses. DNR Secretary Roy Cimatu said the department will create a working group and conduct a joint meeting to come up with important engineering interventions along the Cagayan River. The planned working group will be comprised of the governors of Cagayan, Isabela, Quirino, and Nueva Vizcaya, as well as the nearby Cordillera Administrative Region. Aside from the immediate dredging of the heavily silted Cagayan River, Cimatu said strict implementation of the easement rule along its riverbanks is a must. Cimatu, who co-chairs the Build Back Better task force created by President Rodrigo Duterte, also called on local officials whose areas were hit by the recent flooding to ensure the availability of water, electricity, transportation, telecommunication, and adequate basic needs for the victims. In other news, House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco emphasized the need to review dam protocols to prevent a repeat of devastating floods that swamped Cagayan and Isabela provinces during the onslaught of Typhoon Ulysses. Velasco pointed to climate change and the release of water from Gov't Dam as potential causes for massive flooding in Cagayan and Isabela during the typhoon. House Deputy Majority Leader Bernadette Herrera, meanwhile, said outdated protocols have possibly contributed to the massive floods. For House Agriculture Panel Chair Mark Enverga, there are several lapses in the coordination of concerned agencies within the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council or NDRRMC during the onslaught of Ulysses. National Irrigation Administration Chief Ricardo Visaya, however, maintained that the opening of the water gates of Gov't Dam was not the major cause of the flooding in Cagayan and Isabela. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondo.
The Department of Labor and Employment said it would tap local government units to meet the deadline for disbursing the 200 million peso budget for its Tupad program. The cash aid program set for the distribution on December 19 would benefit some 40,000 typhoon-displaced Bicolanos. To date, about 3,000 persons of the target 40,000 beneficiaries have received the cash aid of 5,000 pesos each in exchange for the 16 days of work. Tupad recipients are informal or marginalized workers, including those who are self-employed, underemployed, and other workers who do not have a payslip as a basis for their work payment. Meanwhile, the Philippine Coconut Authority in Caraga released on Tuesday over 239,000 pesos in cash aid to 61 coconut farmers in Sison, Surigao del Norte. The PCA said the cash aid is part of the agency's 2019 Participatory Coconut Planting Project, a program for coconut farmers to develop their plantations and encourage farmers to expand their livelihood. PCA 13 would continue to release cash assistance aid to the coconut farmers in Caraga even amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency in Region 12 is set to launch a series of revalidation activities to update the status of barangays that have been declared as drug-cleared. PDEA 12 spokesperson Kaf Abad said the move aims to determine the status of the barangays and their compliance to the barangay drug clearing program's requirements. Abad said 932 out of the 1,158 barangays in Region 12 have so far been declared as drug cleared. 195 are considered as drug affected and 22 as unaffected. The PDEA Central Office has also set additional requirements for the assessment and revalidation of the barangays. Instead of just accounting for the drug surrenderers and the non-availability of drug supply, among others, barangays are now required to make sure that they graduate from the community-based rehabilitation program. The Philippine Statistics Authority in Negros Oriental has put on hold its registration for the Philippine ID system. The PSA cited the delay in the arrival of registration kits from its national office as a result of the recent typhoons hitting the country. The national ID system registration here was scheduled to begin today, November 25. However, individuals who had earlier received their appointment slips from the PSA were asked to wait until the final notification of the date for registration is released. The PSA reassured that it will make a formal announcement once the date has been finalized. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP on Tuesday denied allegations that it spent millions for the design and development of its new logo. In a statement, the central bank said the new logo, a gold-colored full-bodied eagle with wings spread upward, was developed by in-house talents. The statement was issued a few days after a news report said the central bank allocated about 52.5 million pesos for its new logo. Earlier, the central bank said the new logo will be done in phases with details scheduled to be announced in January next year. It said the new logo was endorsed by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines prior to the Malacanang approval in November 2020. Up next, Malacanang reminds Tianguez to observe COVID-19 health protocols or be closed down. And Coron Island opens its doors to local tourists beginning December 1. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Christmas decorations are lighting up parts of the country this early as Filipinos celebrate the holiday season amid the pandemic and recent disasters. More on this from Chris Mundo.
The SAMAR provincial government has lightened 400 Christmas lanterns at the Capitol grounds in Catbalogan City on Monday night. The Christmas lanterns are made by teachers and students from various school districts of the Department of Education in SAMAR. The local government also erected a 34-foot Christmas tree at the Capitol grounds. This aims to uplift the spirit and instill pride and hope as they celebrate Christmas amidst disasters and the health pandemic. A giant Christmas tree also rose majestically beside the Manila City Hall as a symbol of hope for Manileños. Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso likened the star on top to a guiding light in the middle of darkness. Dumagoso told Manila residents not to lose hope, saying everyone would all emerge wiser and stronger. Meanwhile, the famous Belenismo sa Tarlac pushed through this year despite many difficulties, including the pandemic and the typhoons that destroyed the entries of various towns and organizations. This year's theme, We Heal as One, is dedicated to the province's fight against the dreaded COVID-19, according to the Tarlac Heritage Foundation. Unlike in the past years, there were only 34 participants for this year, of which 2 were not able to make it to the final judging after their entries were destroyed by the typhoon. The awarding of this year's winners will be announced in December. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
Malacanang warned Tianguez or bazaar operators of possible closure if they fail to observe minimum standards to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque issued the reminder as more people are expected to flock to Tianguez with the holiday season fast approaching. Roque also urged local government units or LGUs to do their part in monitoring Tianguez to prevent people from gathering in one area. In a taped public address aired Monday night, President Rodrigo Duterte renewed his call to strictly follow minimum health and safety protocols to prevent a post-Christmas holiday surge of COVID-19 cases.
Pwede po, kung maalala nyo, nung tayo po'y unang-unang nagluwag, talagang dinagsa ng tao mga malls at mayroong mga malls na sinarado po ng mga lokal na pamahalaan. So i-remind ko lang po mga Tianguez operators, pwede po kayo mapasara kapag hindi nyo po inobserve ang social distancing. Pwede naman pong limitahan yung mga pumapasok sa mga Tianguez, kinakailangan lang magkaroon ng special entry at exit points. Pag hindi po kayo nag-control ng crowd, baka mapasara kayo, lalo kayo mawala ng negosyo.
The annual 3-month closed season for the conservation of sardines is starting from December 1 to March 1 in East Sulu Sea, Basilan Strait, and Sibugay Bay. The closed season will be marked by a send-off ceremony for the patrol vessels of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources alongside with that of the Philippine Coast Guard and PNP Maritime Group. Sardine fishing in the 3 water bodies is suspended each year from December 1 to March 1 of the succeeding year to accommodate the 3-month spawning period of fish species. BFAR Region 9 Director Isidro Velayo Jr. has urged coastal communities and commercial fishing operators to cooperate with the Bureau in its effort to manage, conserve, and protect the country's fishery resource. Coron Island in Palawan will start accepting local tourists beginning December 1. Based on the approved guidelines and protocols for prospective visitors, any Filipino or foreigner residing in the Philippines aged 15 to 65 may enter the island for leisure purposes. Coron will be implementing a 50% carrying capacity for destinations with corresponding minimum health protocols implemented. To schedule a trip to Coron, the visitor must first book via an accommodation establishment accredited by the Department of Tourism or DOT. A negative RT-PCR result within 48 to 72 hours before arrival is also required. Visitors must also register and fill up the required health declaration forms, which may be accessed online. The visitor will be given a unique QR code which will serve as a pass upon entry and while on Coron. In sports, Filipino-American Jordan Clarkson is now officially playing for the Utah Jazz. NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski said last weekend on Twitter that 28-year-old Clarkson agreed with the Jazz to a 4-year deal amounting to $52 million. Clarkson, who was a free agent, averaged 15.2 points per game last season. Meanwhile, defending NBA champions Los Angeles Lakers announced the return of free agent forward Markieff Morris to the team for the 2020-2021 season last Monday. Markieff's twin Marcus recently signed a 4-year, $64 million contract with the Clippers. Croatian basketball player Dario Saric is staying at the Phoenix Suns for another 3 years. Also, Real Madrid's playmaker guard from Argentina, Facundo Campazzo, is set to soon join the Denver Nuggets. The 10 entries to this year's Metro Manila Film Festival has been revealed, all available digitally through streaming beginning Christmas Day, December 25. The Metro Manila Development Authority said instead of the usual 8 entries, the MMFF will showcase 10 movies this year. The entries were chosen based on the criteria of artistic excellence at 40%, commercial appeal at 40%, Filipino sensibility at 10%, and global appeal at 10%. MMDA and concurrent MMFF chairperson Danilo Lim said that while the pandemic prohibits the screening of films on cinemas, the tradition of watching MMFF films will continue through streaming services such as Upstream and G Movies. The Parade of Stars and Gabi ng Parangal, both part of the annual MMFF, will also be streamed online. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The government presents its strategy for mass immunization against COVID-19. A former NPA rebel says there is no need to join the CPP-NPA to show patriotism. Malacanang warns local mayors against protecting illegal loggers and miners. Coron Island opens its doors to local tourists beginning December 1. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And it is 30 days to go before Christmas. Amid this pandemic, being healthy is something we still should be grateful for. Wishing everybody a happy holiday season. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell you stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.